Welcome back to The Secret Stash. My name is Chuck Charlton with the Charlton Advantage team in Milton. Now, this episode is all about buying in the Bahamas. And while I've heard Jason Kinsale from Aristo Development's name many times through his mom, I just never managed to connect with him. And so we did. It was fantastic. I had a Zoom meeting with him and he shared with me some really interesting information. I thought we got to put this in a webinar, especially after the success of the Calgary webinar. We thought we'd bring you something new and fresh. And who doesn't like the thought of living by the ocean, by the beach? So I think investors are going to be very, very excited by some of these numbers. And I think that the snowbirds and the people who want to potentially retire down there would also find a lot of value. So I'm excited to share this with you. Enjoy the episode. So for a couple minutes while we're letting some more people in, so this whole thing happened because Jason's mother is an old friend of mine from real estate. I've been doing Milton real estate for about 16 years. She was one of the first people I met. And, we've been friends. I haven't seen her for years. And she's kind of at I'll say the end stages of her career, right? She's still doing stuff, but she's also helping Jason out. And so I saw her at Louis' Diner. Have you gone to Louis' Diner, Jason?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
So wonderful place, local. And so I saw her and we just had this conversation. I told her about our Calgary webinar. I don't know if anyone on the call was in our Calgary webinar, but I thought, this is something that we could do for places all over. I had someone email me about buying in the US. He said, I'd love to have a webinar about buying in the US. And we had a team member who actually moved down to Arizona to be with his fiance. And he's created this wonderful Canadian-American connection, right? Because traditionally the hardest part of buying internationally or buying in the US has been financing. Right. So the banks are starting to open up and starting to have some new programs for Canadians buying in the US. We're going to talk about some of the financing options in the Bahamas, even though Jason or I don't really deal directly with that. Enough about the big picture things that you can speak definitely about that. Okay, so we've got some people in the room now. If you guys want to just spend some time, if you have any questions that you want answered on this webinar, just put it in the chat. Or now is the chance to unmute yourself if you want. I believe everybody is muted now, aside from Jason and I. We'll try and keep it that way on the call just to eliminate background noise. But what do you guys want to know? How can we make this a really good session for you? Do you have anything? If you want to type it in the chat, please do that now. And of course, as we're going through the information, you can put questions in. We may answer them while we're on the topic, or we may save them till the end. But the goal is to really just get all the questions out there. I'm just admitting people now. Jason, this might be a good time to just talk about your history. We're almost ready to start, but maybe just talk about. So you're a Milton boy, son of Sandy Kinsale.
Yeah, funny enough, I was actually born in the Bahamas. We ended up moving back to Canada when I was 4 years old, and spent some time in Toronto, and eventually moved out to Milton, as I had mentioned before. And that's where I grew up. And I remember taking the snowmobiles to the bars when we had snowstorms, and that was Milton back then. It's obviously changed a lot now, and it's evolved. And I don't think they'll let you take your snowmobile down Main Street anymore, but that's what we used to do, and on occasion. But so I have a lot of roots there, and my friends are in Oakville and Mississauga and Toronto, and as I said before, I really enjoy coming back. So I'm Canadian and I'm Bahamian as well. So that's was part of the reason that I ended up coming back to the Bahamas. I remember being down on Front Street on a cold, windy evening, and I said, I can't do it anymore. And I was freezing, and I just said, okay, all right, I got to go. And there was an opening for me to come down here, and that was 21 years ago now. So that's been a very short snapshot of what has transpired. But for those of you who don't know the Bahamas that well, I live in Nassau, and Nassau is the capital of the country. We have over 700 islands in the Bahamas, and the nice thing is we're only a 2.5 hour flight from Toronto direct, and nice with everything opening up. We're very, very busy again with COVID restrictions being eased. It's easy to get here now. It's the American Thanksgiving, and it's completely sold out. We're overrun with tourists, and I'm happy to see them all here again because we didn't have any for quite some time. I know everybody's really on the call to find a little bit more about real estate, but there are some major advantages to being here. When I was back in Toronto, I was amazed at how far people are buying outside of the city and how far they're going. When I was talking to people that are buying in Halifax, they're buying in Calgary, as you mentioned before. And it was interesting that Milton has even become so expensive. My mom just bought a place there recently, and I was shocked, like everybody else, at the prices. So we have been very busy in the Bahamas. You are seeing a lot of escalation. I think you're seeing that worldwide. I don't think it's just us, but it's been going on in Toronto for a couple of decades now, so or more than that.
And who would have thought that COVID would create a housing boom? It was fascinating.
Yeah.
But the wealth has just exploded. 47% increase in the last 2 years in Milton is, that's creating equity in people's homes. A lot of people have $400,000 of money that, it's sitting there. It's serving the purpose of keeping their mortgage payment the same, but it's really not growing. Like, it's kind of dead money sitting there.
Right. And
so we're getting a lot of calls from investors just saying, give me somewhere to put this money. Right,
exactly. And it's all, we're all scratching our head, and it's a very, very, it's a big issue. And, I have a lot of friends that are in finance, because we are an offshore financial center here in the Bahamas. And, one of their terms they're saying now is that cash is trash. And if you have cash sitting in your bank account, maybe you feel good looking at it, but it's not worth the same tomorrow as it is today. So everybody's very concerned. Everybody's buying everything, and the thing is, you can't buy anything. So I have a very wealthy friend. I went into his met with him a couple of days ago, and he kind of had his head sort of started down. I said, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "I can't buy anything. Everything I try to buy is either sold or unavailable, or I missed it." I said, "Well, these are first world problems, obviously, but it seems like there's so much demand for just luxury products in general, or vacation homes, as we know, or investment property. It's a worldwide issue that we're seeing."
Yeah. And we won't even get into all the money going into Bitcoin and all that stuff, all the cryptocurrency. That is another webinar. Quickly, before we get started, you'll notice there's a bunch of boxes behind me. That is for our food drive we're doing on December 4th. So if you head to No Frills in the afternoon, between 10 and 2 p.m., and just even if you're just kind of grateful for the information that's given here, come bring some food. We're trying to get at least 300 boxes of cereal to Food for Kids Charlton. So again, Sunday, December 4th. That's why I have banana boxes behind me. And I thought it was kind of cool. We're talking about Bahamas. There's some bananas.
Right. Yeah.
So I was going to move them, and I thought, you know what? Let's just leave them there. Let's put a pitch in for the food drive. So, So I think we've got most of the people. I mean, there's definitely more people that registered, but no one, we don't get 100% turnout for these kind of things.
Yeah.
But the seminar is being recorded.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of questions in the chat. So again, the people that just came in, if you have questions that you want Jason to answer, put them in the chat. We'll either address them during the conversation or at the end, but the goal is to have you guys get all of your questions answered to make it as valuable as possible. So again, we talked about how we cross paths, and when we were chatting last time, Jason, so by the way, Jason is the president and he's the developer at Aristo Development. Would you say you're the largest builder in the Bahamas? You're definitely up there.
I wouldn't say we're the largest, but we've been around for about 15 years now. We've built about 300 homes and condominiums here. So we've got a good track record, and we've been at it for quite some time. We have approximately $200 million under development right now. So yeah, we've been in the game a few years. Yeah, so we're getting there.
So we were chatting and I thought, boy, oh boy, there is, like, for investors, for snowbirds, there's opportunities there. So I think today we'll cover the full spectrum, right? We'll cover more of a starter product. We can go up, to luxury. So you can kind of see the lifestyles of the rich and famous kind of stuff. And, and just talk about why it might be a good idea for you to invest in the Bahamas. So do you want to put some of your slides up? Is there anything else you want to share before we get into it?
Yep. Do share screen now. Okay.
Can everyone see that? Can you nod your heads, or can you just kind of put in the chat, yes, I can see it?
Okay, great.
Everything looks good. You can hear us both. Yeah? Okay, good.
I see. Well, I had to start off with the pretty slides of the perfect life, and but it's pretty close to this. The water is really that clear for those who haven't been here, and it's an amazing place to live. Right now it's about 75 degrees today, and sunny, a little bit windy, and just trying to make everybody a little bit jealous there. But it's once you get used to the sun, and they say vitamin D is important these days. So I haven't. I have to fight off my COVID with a little shot of vitamin D from a natural source down here, which is also good. But I'll show you a little bit more here. So that's just our office. As I mentioned before, we've been in business for about 15 years, and we've built, as I said before, roughly 300 homes. And I'll show you some of the projects that we've done and some of the projects that we have underway right now as well. I guess why the Bahamas? I mean, that's, it's not just about the sun. Everybody wants to make sure that their money is safe. Our dollar is at par with the US dollar. So everything is conducted in US currency here. One of the big reasons that you see people moving to the Bahamas or investing in the Bahamas is to obtain something called permanent residency. And essentially what that means is that if you invest $750,000 in a home, condominium, any kind of real estate investment, you can become a permanent resident of the Bahamas. So essentially that means that you are able to sever ties with Canada. You're still able to spend 183 days in Canada, but you would have to be out of the country for the remainder of the year. And essentially you would not be paying any income tax whatsoever. So there's a lot of people that are obviously very mobile with COVID. A lot of people in the cryptocurrency industry that are moving down here, people in the financial industry. So any business that is essentially mobile is very attractive to those individuals or companies to come down here. So there's no filing of taxes annually, personally. There's no putting the receipts in a shoebox and hoping you're not being audited in March. It's very comforting from that perspective to know that nobody's looking over your shoulder, because there is no income tax. There are no write-offs, because everything that you make is yours. So that's one of the main reasons. We also have a very good investment product I'll talk about a little bit later, and we'll get to that in a minute as well. One Cable Beach in this slide here is a project that I finished about 3 years ago. That was 73 units. That's totally sold out. You'll see at the upper portion of the slide, there's a project called Bahamas, which is a development that was finished about 3 years ago. It's approximately 3,500 rooms. It's an amazing $3.5 billion investment that they've made there. and it's really nice to have that so close to where we live now. I actually live in One Cable Beach, so it's 600 feet to Bahamas, which is a nice amenity with lots of restaurants and lots to do, and just a great spot. So as you can see with the Aquilina is the other project that we have under construction right now, right next door. So I have about a 6-second commute if I decide to hop the wall, and yeah, so it's very close. And once again, very close to Bahamas. So this whole Cable Beach strip is, which I'll talk to a little bit further, is growing. It's going through a revitalization, and you're seeing more development in this area. We're in the process of acquiring additional properties in the Cable Beach area at this time too. So 36 is a project that we completed on Paradise Island about 3 years ago as well. We do have product available in there. Those units would range from 930,000 US up to about 1.6. Paradise Island is where Atlantis is located. For those that have been to the Bahamas before, Atlantis is another huge development with roughly 5,000 rooms. So very busy, great for Airbnb, great if somebody's just looking for something to use once in a while and rent on a short-term basis as well. Generally, you'll see it something for 930,000 renting for about $5,500 in that range on Paradise Island. Just to give you an idea of the rents on the investment.
Now, would that be more of a long-term lease, or would that be more of the cumulative, like the sum total of the Airbnb revenue?
On a long term, it'd be around 5,500, and you'd be pretty close to that on the short term as well. We're seeing a lot of, with COVID, we're seeing a lot of extended stay. So people are coming down for a month, they're coming down for 3 months, as an example. Everybody's mobile these days, so we're seeing that market's been very vibrant over the last 6 months as well.
So probably the winter is more popular, would you say? Just the snowbird kind of thing. They get out when the snow starts and come back when the snow's gone.
Not necessarily. It's funny enough. It's not necessarily. September is generally your slowest month, but the summer is quite busy. The Europeans travel. They have the average European has 6 weeks vacation a year, so they'll come down for a month at a time in the summer. So our summers are actually quite busy. And I think I lived in Vancouver, and it was like Whistler was busier in the summer than is now busier in the summer than it is in the winter for tourism. So we're kind of seeing something similar here too.
To put that into context, you've got about $1 million or whatever, 900, and you can rent it for more than 5,000 a month. If you compare that to like a Milton townhouse, for example, we just sold an end unit townhouse that for $975, a Croftside model, and you could probably lease that out for about $3,000 a month. So right away, the potential rental income, the numbers are going to be so much better. If you've ever watched our investor class that we do, we talk about this, we call it the rule of 1/2, where the numbers start to make sense when you're making 0.5% or more of the value of the property every month, right? So again, $1 million property, I would expect it to be 5,000 or more a month. If it was a $400,000 property, I'd want to see $2,000 a month. Yeah. So Edwin just put a comment in the chat. So yeah, US dollars, again, you're buying these things obviously with the US prices, but the thing that we always say about that is that your rent also comes in US dollars.
Right.
So it ends up, there's an equivalence there. I mean, we have to just change the currency rate, but the actual ratio between rental compared to value of the property, that's more of what we look at. Right. Yeah, as investors, that's more important to us.
So makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, no problem. This is another project that this is Aquilina that I mentioned earlier, that is next to One Cable. This is 27 units in total. We're 50% sold on the project now. We broke ground about 6 weeks ago, and It's an 11-story building. Every single unit's facing the water. Price ranges from starting at 2.6 million up to 11 million. So obviously this is a much higher position product. 2,600 square foot units on average, up to roughly just over 7,600 square feet for the penthouse. We're seeing a lot of the crypto money is coming here in a big way. I have never seen money like this crypto money in my life. It's just mind-boggling when you're talking to these people. FTX, have you heard of FTX, Chuck?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so FTX is one of the largest crypto trading currency firms in the world. Binance, you might have heard of Binance. So what's happened is the Bahamas has created something called the DARE Act, which has made it very friendly for the cryptocurrency companies to move here and operate in a regulated environment and not pay any tax. So these companies are coming here and obviously making billions and literally billions, and they're coming here and it's essentially a tax haven for them. So these are the kind of people you're seeing in here, and it's a big market for us now. It's growing very quickly.
So how would the country make money? Like there's a property tax rate. I was reading about that, where there's a sliding scale, but what other revenue sources are there? It just seems like if there's no income tax or anything,
right.
Like the infrastructure, like where's the money for that stuff? Or because you're
paying, it's a consumption tax. Yeah, so it's consumption tax. You're bringing in construction materials, furniture, cars. You're going to pay more for those things here. Your groceries are going to be probably 30% more here. So that's where they make their money, is the duties on the imported items. There are property taxes. Actually, on Aquilina, we did receive a special exemption where there's no property tax for 20 years on this project. That was something that the government did for us to encourage the construction of the development. So, but to answer your question, it's basically a consumption tax and duties.
Right.
And there are minimal corporate taxes. We pay 1.5% on gross revenue. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yep. So it's not so bad. This is another project that we have starting in January. It's called the Avalon. It's in the Cable Beach area as well, which for anybody who's interested, I'd be happy to speak to them one-on-one at another time to give them more information. But it's a very small island. It's only 27 by 11, so nothing's really too far away. This project is about a 2-minute walk to the beach. And this is a great investment opportunity. They're priced at $400,000, so significantly lower than what we had discussed before. And you're going to be renting these units at $3,000 per month. So you get a very good rent, a reasonable investment amount initially, and this is great for that person looking for that just a pure rental play. Aquilina is more of a lifestyle decision because obviously with the price, and your rental return may not be as strong as it would be on the Avalon.
Right. This is the one that made my ears perk up, because versus the rule of 1/2, this is the rule of 3/4.
Right. Yeah, I like your rule.
This is where you start to see like those numbers where you're making $700, $800 a month, like those kind of things, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know if now's the right time to talk about the permanent residency and those kind of things. If you bought 2 of these, or
right,
yeah, I think that's pretty compelling too, right?
Well, funny enough, like 3 of my friends are moving here. They've all gone offshore. They're all from Oakville, and they're very concerned that somebody has to pay for COVID. And they said they're not going to be the ones to stay in Canada and pay for COVID. They've made a decision to go offshore. They've purchased an Aquilina. They're obtaining the permanent residency. So just to reiterate, $750,000 investment. You become a permanent residency of the Bahamas, and you're able to become essentially sever ties with Canada. And by doing that, you are not paying any income tax in Canada going forward. So it's not as simple as that. I mean, it is a bit of a process, but and it's not for everybody, obviously, but it is for a lot of people. So, and we're seeing probably the most people coming down here that I've ever seen, because Europe, Canada, everybody's worried that, Biden's talking about this capital gains increase, that Trudeau is going to be at, they got to find the money somewhere, and it's just a matter of time.
Right.
So it's on its way. Yeah.
So a couple of questions. There was a question from Peyton about the weather, hurricanes. I think recently there was a hurricane there that did some damage, right? The last couple of years.
Yeah, there was. It was called Hurricane Dorian. That's a very good question. As I mentioned before, I've been down here 21 years in Nassau. I've always lived in Nassau, and we've never had any significant damage. We had Hurricane Matthew about 6 years ago that had some minor damage. Maybe some minor roof issues. Dorian was a severe storm. I won't say that it wasn't, but that was in Abaco primarily, and a little bit of Freeport. Nassau seems to be somewhat protected from the storms for a variety of reasons, partially because we're surrounded by shallow water, and the hurricanes don't generally get enough. They like deep water, and the reef around the island helps to protect us as well. So so to answer this question, we've been fine for 21 years. I'm not saying that we couldn't get hit tomorrow, but there's actually some old buildings I wouldn't mind a hurricane blowing down, so we can start some new ones. But we've been okay for the most part. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a question from Richard about what islands have the most opportunity and potential.
I'm a believer in Nassau. I think that's really where the action is. I think that's where you're seeing the probably the lifestyle that's going to appeal to somebody that's coming from Toronto or a city that's probably there's the most to do here. But the out islands have been extremely busy from a single family home perspective. Eleuthera, Exuma. Very hard to find anything there now. It's gotten very expensive. And that's because people want homes. It's like they all ran to cottage country, or all ran up to Muskoka, and because they want that escape. And that's what Eleuthera is appealing to that person. Whereas Nassau is a little bit more for the person who, wants to go to the hotel at night and go to the cool restaurants and a little bit of action. Whereas Eleuthera is very quiet. It's just going to be very local, sort of chill, quiet scene. Yeah. Great beaches, very warm.
So if you had a home, let's say on the beach there in one of the smaller islands, like do you have any awareness of what somebody would spend for something like that?
They can range, obviously, but they're saying 2 million is the new million, right? So I think that's you need to go down there with a couple of dollars for sure. You might be able to, you could probably find something that's a hilltop view, maybe in the 500, 600, 700 range. But if you want to be on the beach, you'll be in the millions for sure.
Right. Yeah. You said basically anything Nassau. Otherwise, it's $1 million or more to be on the beach.
Just the cost of land as a developer has gotten very expensive. I'd say the cost of land over the last 3 years has gone up about 30% or so, 40%. Yeah. Right. For larger acreages. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple more questions if you're okay with that, Jason.
Sure. Yeah. Love it.
Can you talk about moving there as a family with 2 kids? This is Richard that asked this. Schools, best place on Nassau for more of a family. So you were saying about the nightlife and having Atlantis and Bahamas and all that stuff, but where would be the best place to situate a little bit more of maybe a more suburban setting, right? The things that suburban families do.
Yeah. So I have 3 kids. So I know what he's talking about. So yeah, there's a great private school system here. I mean, you could check out Lyford Key School. It's a popular private school. Generally, you're not going to put your children in the public school system here, and you don't mind because there's the advantages of the taxes that you're not paying. So you are going to pay. As I say, nothing's completely free, so you're gonna spend a bit more on school. As I mentioned before, the island is quite small, so there's literally from Bahamas all the way to the most western tip of the island might be 10 miles or so, 9 miles. So that would sort of be your stretch of where you would be living, even with families, etc., as well. So
yeah. Okay. So a couple of questions around, so Edwin had a couple of good ones here. Before I get into Edwin's questions, I'm going to ask you some of my own, which is, you're buying at the Avalon. This is obviously very attractive as an investor. We talked about, you're in the sort of $399, $400 price point, making $3,000 a month in rent. What are the other acquisition costs there? So things like I was reading, there's a value-added tax, there's a stamp fee, there's legal fees. Like, what could somebody expect overall? Buy for $399. What are the closing costs that would be typical there?
Yeah, great question. So we had something called stamp tax, which is the government tax, it's 10%, but it's split between the buyer and seller. So 5% each. So you'd have 5% on top of the 400,000 as the buyer. You would have legal fees of approximately 1% on top of the 400,000 as well. The units are sold unfurnished, so you would be having to furnish we could help with that as well with packages, but generally you're going to be looking at about 25,000, 30,000 to furnish it properly, because we have duties on the furniture here.
Right.
So those would be your acquisition costs. Annual property tax on the Avalon would be in the range of about $1,500, because you're exempt on the first $250,000. So you're only paying on $150,000. So it's quite low.
So this goes back to Edwin's question, is property management, maintenance costs, even being in a hurricane area, is the insurance very high? Like, what are some of the other expenses people should consider?
Yes, so you'd have your homeowners fees, which would include your insurance for hurricane. We have hurricane rated windows. The windows would be rated up to 180 miles per hour. If we get over 180, the windows aren't going to save you anyway. So, but I haven't seen anything like that here before. So you'd have roughly $350 for your homeowners fees monthly. We would charge 10% of the rent to manage the unit, and we only charge when it's rented. We don't charge when it's vacant. We'd be able to find it. I see no issues getting tenants. There's literally there's a shortage of suitable accommodation on island right now. There's so many people coming, and literally there's just nothing. There's nothing. And one cable, we're completely full. We manage a lot of units on island now, and we're getting calls every day, and I just don't have anything. It's so frustrating. I wish I could make homes out of magic and satisfy the demand. Right. But not possible.
Good. So there's a very high likelihood that when someone buys a unit like this, that there'll be an audience for it.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. How about appreciation? I'm sure this is available on the internet somewhere, but I believe we were talking about the last 20 years. How's the real estate market been? My impression was it's kind of like a gentle, it's going up, but not as mad as it is here.
Yeah, no, you're not going to have a market like Toronto. I would, I always like to say just, you're 5% a year. I think that's probably realistic. You don't know this crazy world of ours right now, but I think that's what I would plan on as an investor. I wouldn't go in hoping that it's going to be double in a once it's completed, because I know you can do that in Toronto, right. And that's not the case here.
Yeah. Good. And with with these big crypto companies coming in, and
yeah,
you've got you've got a nice thing going. So
Yeah,
that's it. Like I'm coming into this, like I'm not trying to sort of pitch anything or it's me just saying this sounds interesting. Let's get some people
right.
together. I want you guys to ask the questions that maybe I'm not thinking of. Maybe I can ask some that you haven't thought of, but that's why we're here. So put some stuff in the chat. In the meantime, Jason, is there anything else, like any other projects, any other things that you think a buyer would want to know about buying in the Bahamas?
Yeah, I think they obviously want to know, how easy is the transaction. It's, I would say 90% of our buyers are foreigners. There's all kinds of Canadians down here for lifestyle decisions, tax decisions, investment decisions. Obviously, I would say the Canadians are probably 35% of our market. Europeans would be another third, and Americans would be another third. So the transaction, very straightforward. It's not, we don't move on Toronto time. We are an island. We get everything done eventually, but we're here to support the whole process as well. And there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to run. I'm going to see you at Starbucks. I'm going to see you at the grocery store. So you got to make sure you do what you say you're going to do. And I'm very courageous. I live in my building that I built. So, I see my owners every day. And so from that perspective, I think you're going to feel more comfortable than knowing that we're here. And I know what the Canadians' expectations are because I am Canadian as well.
Had another question. How many bedrooms for the one for $400,000? Maybe the size of the unit.
Yeah, that's a two bedroom, two bath. It's 1,000 square feet. It's a gated community as well. It's completely enclosed. Two parking spaces are included with that as well. And it's very close to shopping, very close to the beach, as I had mentioned. You can see on the map there, you can see one cable beach that I mentioned before, where I am now, Bahamas, and you can see Avalon right here. That's probably, I could zoom in, but if anybody's interested, I could get into more detail on the
and you mentioned you couldn't even sell these units for this price, except that you bought this land 10 years ago.
Yeah, we've been sitting on the land a long time, and to buy this property now would be I'd have to sell the units for 500 minimum. So it's just one of these projects that we have the land. I'm just going to build it out and get it completed. So, but yeah, land is it's hard to find. I don't even think I could find this property easily. There's always another piece of land. I'm not going to pretend there isn't, but it's very hard.
Deposit, right? So what would you look for? And then maybe we'll talk a bit about financing too, right? Like what the down payment would be for any of these places. So talk a bit about mortgages.
Right. So to qualify with a lender in the Bahamas, you're going to need a 30% injection. They're going to amortize on probably a 20-year term. You're not going to see 25. And I always say if you're amortizing on 25, it might be getting a little bit long for investment anyway. So, but that's my own personal opinion. Everybody has their own. But we have Royal Bank, Scotiabank are the predominant, the two leading lenders here. They are not connected with the Canadian branches or offices. So you're really applying for a new loan down here. So they're not going to accept your application in Toronto and then approve you here. You'd have to apply in the Bahamas virtually. Obviously, you could do it online, or through the RBC rep, which I could put you in contact with as well.
There is an option too, like I said, with the amount of appreciation that's happened on your property in Canada, you might even just open up like a home equity line of credit.
Yeah.
And then kind of loan yourself your money through the property, because really that could be, that might be prime plus, 1-2% kind of thing here. So depending on the interest rates they're giving you down there, that might be an option too, kind of buy cash through the equity in your home.
Yeah, it's going to be easier to have this do a home equity loan. I agree with you. And but you're looking at around 4 to 4.5% interest rate here right now, in that range.
Okay. Uh, any other questions about financing there? Right. What would you expect as a builder, the deposit structure? Like, upon signing, would there be a certain amount after 90 days, or how would you structure that?
Right. So yeah, we have a series of stage payments throughout construction. It's 10% with a sales agreement, another 15% and I can email all this as well. 15% when we break ground. There's essentially five stage payments throughout an 18 to 20-month period, which would be paid. Yeah.
Okay. And so would that be more than the 30% then? Because you said 10 and 15.
Right.
So you'd have to get almost like a construction loan kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I'm saying it's generally easier to have the financing arranged in Toronto versus because the banks they're not going to lend on an incomplete unit. That's part of the issue you have. So what we see a lot of the time is that people we have a lot of cash buyers, or they're getting home equity loans. So they'll use their own cash or the home equity loan, and then Royal Bank will come in at the end and take out 70% of the purchase price to help them to refinance.
Right. So call the bank of mom and dad, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. We've all done that. Yeah. We've all done that. So.
Yeah. BOMD, bank of mom and dad.
Right.
Okay. Another question here. Any thoughts on overcrowding of the island? Obviously, we're seeing development, traffic, pollution, crime, those kind of things that happen when you put more people in a small space.
Sure. Yeah. No, all good questions. Yeah. No, I know traffic's a huge issue. I was on the 401 recently, and it's crazy. I mean, we don't have that level of development that's going on back home. We're building, like, to give you an example, on the Cable Beach Strip, there's Aquilina, as I mentioned. There's another project called Wynn, which is very close to Bahamas as well. But those are the only two major projects going on down here right now. I have another one coming out in about a year and a half. I would say I'm in the planning stages, but traffic is minimal. You're basically, everywhere in a few minutes, and it's nice from that perspective. It's nice just get in your car and not have to think about what time it is. We do have a little rush hour traffic around 5, but nothing to really, as I say, hurt your head about in the Bahamas. That's Bahamian slang, but yeah. From a crime perspective, we do have some issues. I won't pretend that we don't. But generally, in any of our developments, we've never had any issues. They are gated communities. You will see that in the Bahamas. It's not like Canada where everything is basically open. Forest Hill is wide open, or East Oakville or Milton or wherever. So you generally do have gated communities with security, but we've never had any issues to speak of. So there's no way I'm going to put myself or any of my clients in harm's way. And I would have never stayed for 21 years if it was such an issue. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So pollution, probably not a big issue there. You get some nice trees, right?
Our air quality is excellent. Yeah. There's no smog line because we're so small. It doesn't have anywhere to trap, and we just don't have enough cars generating, enough pollution to. I'm sure we're not the best at. Maybe we litter here and there, but our air quality is excellent, and you can't take that for granted. It's really just waking up in the morning, looking at the ocean, and seeing a beautiful clear sky is something you can't take for granted. I had a client that moved down here from India, and he said is unbearable. It's unbearable. And we have people coming here from Hong Kong now, and he said it's just it's a real problem.
Right. Yeah, I mean, COVID, you saw actually how the air got better when people had to stay at home. It's like you realized how bad it was when you just eliminated car traffic and all the factories and all that stuff.
Yeah.
A couple more questions here. Edwin asked, I think I know the answer to this, but do you offer a rental guarantee as part of the management 10% fee? Based on what you said, if it's vacant, you don't charge. I would guess there's no rental guarantee.
We don't charge. But we don't do a rental guarantee. No.
Right, but it sounds like there's enough demand. You should be fine with that. And then
Yeah.
Shiraz asked, when will the units be ready? Shiraz, which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Avalon? Or are you talking about some of the other ones that we spoke about before? Maybe just let me know in the chat. But in general, for the projects you mentioned, Jason, when would you expect those to be completed?
I would say Avalon is about 20 months, and Aquilina, the larger one, would be about 20 to 24 months. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Aquilina, that penthouse. So that entire top floor is one
Right.
unit, that, right?
Yes, 7,600 square feet. That was a gentleman in the crypto industry that bought that. And it was interesting designing that unit because everything was just so big. And I'd never designed a condo, because what we did is we put two units together, and he said, I want to have one big one. And yeah, I mean, the bedroom is almost 1,200 square feet. It's just
Wow.
the master bedroom. So
Yeah.
you're like, what can we add now that you probably never use? And that's two people in there. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. It was fun. That's been fun to design it for sure.
Two people in that square footage, you could
yeah,
have some good hideaways. They never see each other sometimes.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well, what other questions, Jason? Anything else to add? I know I've learned a ton here.
Yeah, I'll put my I'll show you my email address at the bottom. You can see my contact info at the bottom. If anybody has any questions, be happy to answer those, and you can just email me directly and give you the specifics. Yeah. Whoops, let me get off that.
Perfect. And just mention to Jason that you saw it through this through the Charlton Advantage webinar, and
yeah, for sure.
Let's just check the chat here. Anything else? Guys, I think this might be your last chance to ask questions, so fire them off.
Great.
I don't think there's anything else. So with that being said, we are very grateful for everyone who showed up. We're very grateful, Jason, for your time. And
thank you.
Yeah, let's see if there's a future in the Bahamas for any one of you guys. Final thoughts about the island. What's it like to live there? Just like, what's your favorite part about being in the Bahamas?
Basically, I used to hear that, I'd be in the cold and my bones would hurt, and, everything aches. And I always thought it was an old wives' tale. I never thought it was real. And I went back to Toronto, and I went obviously to Canada and the States, and I was cold and I actually felt achy. I won't lie to you. And I think being in the warmth has huge impact on your lifestyle. Just getting up, always wearing shorts. Not having to worry about scraping your window shield in the morning and worrying about the temperature. And everybody's a weather person, always checking the weather every 2 seconds, because it's such a big part of our lives. And that's why everybody checks the weather, because it is important. It just has I guess everything's about mental wellness now. And I really do believe that it does help significantly. So obviously weather is a big part of it. Living on the ocean is extremely therapeutic. I wake up to something different every day. One day it's windy, one day it's there's a beautiful boat going by, one day there's a storm. There's always something to keep you entertained. And so I think that's huge. And you understand why people are paying these huge premiums, because it has a lot of value. And I guess the other big thing is not paying income tax. It's massive as well. What I earn, I keep. If I make $100, it's mine. And if I have to pay 30% more for a loaf of bread, I don't mind, because hopefully you're making enough to offset the higher price of groceries, as an example. So we have great healthcare. And basically you're on a private insurance, and you're having the best hospitals made available to you in the United States. My insurance runs me about $4,000 to $5,000 a year, but I get to go to the hospital of my choosing if I have an issue. So You're not waiting on a line. You're not waiting for surgery to come up. I make an appointment, and I hope I don't need one, but so there's a benefit there as well. But and proximity. If I get island fever, I can be at Toronto in 2.5 hours. I'm in Miami in 30 minutes, and it's very accessible, and that's important as well, because I'm not saying that Nassau is perfect by any means, but I can be anywhere very quickly. So that's WestJet and Air Canada fly here every day. So it's just a nice, well-rounded lifestyle.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
By the way, 2.5 hours is how long it takes to get from Milton to like Oshawa.
2.5 hours. Yeah. So, right. And there's no traffic in the air. Maybe the plane will be late, but it's very, very close. And you can be in a completely warm climate in a very short period of time.
It's fantastic.
So I welcome anybody to come down. Be happy to show them around if they're coming down here on vacation this year. I would advise book early. Everything's very, very busy. So the hotels are completely sold out this weekend for American Thanksgiving. Christmas is sold out. March break is sold out. So there are some pockets in between, but come on down and let me know if you're here.
Fabulous. One more question before we leave. Shiraz asked how many units in the Avalon, the building itself, and maybe how many are available right now?
Yeah, so there's 16 in total. We've sold 12 of them, and there's four remaining. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think that's it. I hope
Great.
everyone enjoyed the webinar.